is, but it has already put a lid on Iran's nuclear program and significantly delayed any potential breakout time. That said, however, it is not enough to say yes to the agreement. We could say yes, but we also have to say we will vigorously enforce it. So it's yes and, distrust and verify, embedded in a larger effort to counter Iran across the region. And how we handle enforcement in these early months will set the tone for years to come. So we have to get it right. There must be consequences. We can talk about this. Sanctions back into place. And we have to make sure that Iran knows that if they try to develop or acquire nuclear weapons, the United States will stop them. We will act decisively. Now, Iran has not had some change in personality. They will test our resolve with actions like their ballistic missile test. And I support it and am glad we are proposing new sanctions in response to hold the Iranian government and its Revolutionary Guard Corps accountable for their support of terrorism, the missile program, human rights violation, detention of Americans, and other illicit behavior like cybercrime. We also need to push for a political solution in Syria, as hard as that may be, because that is Iran's real objective, to control Syria, to have a swath of territory up to Israel's doorstep, and to connect with Hezbollah. The second thing is we have to go after the tide of extremism. This is a threat also on Israel's doorstep. An ISIS affiliate in the Sinai is becoming more aggressive and sophisticated, likely responsible for the destruction of the Russian airliner. An Israeli media reported an ISIS commander from the Sinai recently visited Gaza, raising the stakes even higher. I've laid out a detailed plan about how to defeat ISIS and the broader radical jihadist movement. We have to defeat it in the Middle East first and foremost by smashing its stronghold, taking back territory, getting its fighters and its leaders and infrastructure from the air, and intensifying our support for the Arab and Kurdish forces on the ground who can pursue them. We also have to defeat them, though, around the world by dismantling the global network of terror that supplies radical jihadists with money, arms, propaganda, and fighters. And we have to defeat them here at home by foiling plots, hardening our defenses, disrupting radicalization, and especially online. We have to deny ISIS virtual territory just as we deny them actual territory. Now that means we have to be vigilant in screening and vetting refugees from Syria, guided by the best judgments of our security personnel. But we can't allow terrorists to intimidate us into abandoning our values and our humanitarian obligations. Turning away orphans, applying a religious test that discriminates against Muslims, slamming the door on every single Syrian refugee. It's not just that doesn't represent who we are, it's also dangerous. We need to be united with Muslims here at home and around the world to defeat this threat. So after vigorous screening, we should welcome families fleeing Syria, just as we've welcomed previous generations of refugees, exiles, and immigrants. The third trend I want to mention is the growing effort around the world to isolate and delegitimize Israel. The boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement known as BDS is the latest front in this battle. BDS demonizes Israeli scientists and intellectuals, even young students, and compares Israel to South African apartheid. That's wrong, and this campaign should end. As you know, Wednesday is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, in the 71st anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. We can never forget that the State of Israel was created in response to evil and has always stood for justice and human rights, and any suggestion to the contrary is offensive and unacceptable. Now, some of the BDS movement proponents may hope pressuring Israel will lead to peace, but no outside force is going to resolve the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Only a two-state solution, negotiated